We live in a universe that is constantly trying to fall apart. You can see it when a hot cup of coffee goes cold, or when a perfectly organized room descends into clutter. But how do we, as living creatures, fight back against this overwhelming tide of chaos? Norbert Wiener explores this exact question in his book, The Human Use of Human Beings. He coined a term for the science of this resistance, cybernetics. It is the study of communication and control, not just in machines, but in living, breathing people. Information is the ultimate tool. By gathering data from our environment, processing it, and communicating it, we maintain our internal order. We are essentially islands of structure in a sea of encroaching randomness. This isn't just a biological quirk, it is the fundamental mechanism that keeps both us and our most advanced machines functioning. We survive by exchanging information with the world around us. For centuries, science saw the universe as a giant, predictable clock. Isaac Newton gave us a world of absolute causality. In that view, if you knew the exact position and the momentum of every gear right now, you could perfectly predict the entire future. But 20th century physics completely flipped the script. Willard Gibbs came along and dismantled that rigid clockwork. He showed us a universe governed not by absolute certainty, but by chance, probability, and statistical distribution. Order isn't the rule, it is a localized anomaly. When we look out at the world today, we aren't predicting guaranteed outcomes anymore. We are placing bets on what is most likely to happen. This shift from hard determinism to statistical probability is the very foundation of cybernetics. We live in a world where uncertainty is woven into the fabric of reality itself. Think about the arrow of time. It only points one way. In any closed system, nature overwhelmingly pulls everything toward disorganization, monotony, and the destruction of meaning. This is the inescapable flow of entropy, moving steadily from a structured origin toward an eventual thermal death. Someday, the entire universe will likely fade into a lukewarm, featureless soup. Sounds bleak, right? But here's the catch. We aren't there yet. Right now, there are local enclaves of order temporary brilliant reversals of this entropic flow. You are one of them. I am one of them. Life and the complex machines we build are tiny pockets of intense organization, actively fighting against the cosmic current of decay. We consume energy and information to keep the chaos at bay. We are temporary, yes, but while we are here, we are the universe's way of organizing itself. Have you ever wondered if we could cheat this cosmic decay? The physicist, James Clerk Maxwell, dreamed up a thought experiment to try. He imagined a tiny demon sitting at a door between two chambers of gas. The demon opens the door to let fast, hot molecules pass one way and slow, cold ones pass the other. By sorting them out, the demon creates a temperature difference out of nowhere, seemingly reversing entropy for free. But modern physics tells us this is an illusion. Why? Because the demon is blind in the dark. To observe those molecules, the demon needs light from the outside. It needs energy. Information is not some ghostly, immaterial thing. Extracting data always carries a physical, energetic cost. You cannot gather information about your environment without paying a thermodynamic toll. So, how do we actually use this costly information to survive? The answer lies in the mechanics of purpose, specifically through something called negative feedback. Imagine you are driving a car down the highway. You don't just lock the steering wheel and hope for the best. You constantly watch the road. If the car drifts a little to the left, your eyes act as sensors, detecting the error. Your brain processes that lag and sends a correction signal to your hands, the effectors pulling the wheel back to the right. Purposeful behavior isn't about perfectly executing a pre-programmed command. It is about constantly feeding the actual results of your current action back into the system to correct future errors. Whether it's a radar-guided anti-aircraft gun realigning its barrel to hit a moving target, or you reaching out to grab your morning coffee, the mechanism is the exact same. We act, we sense the gap between our action and our goal, and we adjust. This brings us to a massive fork in the road when we look at how different systems behave. Systems interact with the future in one of two ways: rigidity or contingency. Think of a wound up toy or the little dancing figures on top of an old music box. They are rigid automatons. Their actions are preordained. They are deaf and blind to environmental changes. If the table tilts, they just keep dancing their exact routine until they fall off. Their probability of error is absolute if the world shifts around them. Now, compare that to a kitten chasing a swinging ball of yarn. The kitten is an adaptive organism. It doesn't have a pre-planned script. Its movements are contingent. Proprioceptive feedback, the constant internal sensing of its own muscles and joints, alters its motor output in real time. It adjusts its leap mid-air to catch a moving target. It reacts to a world that refuses to stand still. Let's zoom in on living creatures, because nature itself is divided by these two modalities. Take the ant. An ant is essentially a tiny, beautifully efficient but entirely rigid machine. Its hardware is pre-programmed at birth. It fits into a fixed caste system, offering cheap, specialized efficiency, but it cannot learn anything genuinely new. If you put a human in a society designed like an anthill, where every person has a permanently fixed role, you are stripping away the very thing that makes us human. Our dominance on this planet doesn't come from being the strongest or the fastest. It comes from a biological trait called neoteny. We are born physiologically immature, and we retain that juvenile flexibility for a huge portion of our lives. We trade the rigid, hardwired instincts of the insect world for boundless adaptability. Our internal software is infinitely rewritable. We are unspecialized, which costs us a lot of energy and requires a long childhood, but it gives us the ultimate survival tool, the ability to change our own minds. We don't just learn how to do a single task, we learn how to learn. This is the architecture of advanced learning. It relies on what we call second order feedback. Simple feedback is adjusting the steering wheel to stay on the road. Second order feedback is realizing the road is terrible and deciding to take a completely different route tomorrow. Past performance dictates your future behavioral strategy, not just your immediate action. Think of a dog learning to associate a bell with food, physically rerouting its synaptic connections based on experience. Or imagine a complex machine that alters its own internal operating rules, rewriting its own program tape, because the old rules weren't solving the problem. Advanced learning actually changes the threshold of how we react to the world. We accumulate past successes and failures, and we use them to literally rewire our approach to reality. You and I are doing something incredibly complex right now. We are using language. But language is much more than just a list of vocabulary words. It is a cybernetic filter. Communication is essentially a cooperative game that you and I play together against the natural entropic noise of the universe. When I speak, I send out a chaotic wave of phonetic input, sound vibrations, moving through the air. The universe tries to degrade that signal with background noise and interference, but your brain acts as a semantic filter. It catches that massive wave of sound, discards the phonetic noise, and extracts the meaningful pattern. That semantic meaning survives and translates into your behavioral output. We constantly filter out the garbage to preserve the message. Without this shared ability to sift meaning from chaos, human society would instantly collapse into total isolation. Have you ever wondered what actually makes you you? You are not the same physical material you were 10 years ago. The cells in your body, the molecules in your blood, the food you ate yesterday, it is all constantly flushing through you and being replaced. We are not static material. We are self perpetuating patterns of information flowing through time. The specific arrangement of your memories, your habits, your physical form, that is the message that survives. Because human identity is fundamentally a pattern of information rather than a permanent block of matter, it leads to a mind blowing theoretical possibility. Theoretically, if you could perfectly capture the entirety of your structural information, a human identity could be transmitted via telegraph, completely untethered from its original physical atoms, and reconstructed on the other side. You are the message, not the paper is written on. Now, scale that up to a whole society. How do we keep our communities from falling into chaos? We use specialized forms of communication. Take the law, for example. The function of the law is fundamentally anti-entropic. It forces clear, unambiguous interpretation to regulate our social interactions and eliminate semantic noise. It creates a stable, predictable pattern for us to live by. But then look at secrecy, the obsession with locking information away in vaults. In a world of shared scientific discovery, secrecy is a thermodynamic illusion. You can hide a document, but you cannot hide the underlying laws of nature. Scientific truths are inevitable. If someone in New York discovers a fundamental property of physics, someone in Paris or Tokyo will eventually discover it too. Trying to hoard information like a miser hoards gold is a losing battle against the natural flow of the universe. To understand where we are going, we need to look at the two massive revolutions in human automation. The first industrial revolution, back in the 18th century, was entirely focused on power and energy. The steam engine replaced the physical labor of human and animal muscles. The economy shifted to energy conversion. We built massive machines to do the heavy lifting. But the second industrial revolution, the one we are living through right now, is profoundly different. It isn't about power, it is about control and information. We're no longer just replacing muscles. We are replacing human sensory and judgment systems. We are utilizing low energy logic processing to take over cognitive routines. The machines of the 20th and the 21st centuries do the observing, the calculating, and the deciding that used to require a human nervous system. Take a look inside a modern automated factory, and you will see what looks remarkably like a complete artificial nervous system. It has three main components. First, you have the sensors, the eyes of the operation. These are the photoelectric cells and thermometers constantly gathering environmental input from the assembly line. Second, you have the central logic, the brain. This is the computing unit, taking that sensory data, calculating probabilities, and making instant decisions based on programmed rules. And finally, you have the effectors, the muscle. These are the servo motors and the robotic arms, perfectly executing the commands sent by the logic unit. It senses, it thinks, and it acts. We have outsourced the basic feedback loop of purposeful behavior into cold hard machinery. But what happens when we scale that artificial nervous system up to the level of society? This is where we face the chilling threat of the machine governor, the governing machine. Imagine entrusting complex state decisions or economic policies to strategic game playing automata. Machines execute optimal strategies to win the game, entirely blind to the moral cost of the victory condition. They apply flawless logic to the inhumane premises they are given. If we give a machine a goal and fail to program in the nuanced, messy reality of human compassion, it will find the most efficient route to that goal, even if it crushes us in the process. The vulnerability of pure logic is that it does not care. It doesn't feel the tragedy of its own efficiency. And this brings us to the ultimate crossroads, a profound modern question echoing louder today than ever before. The true danger of our age, this era of artificial intelligence and algorithmic dominance, does not lie in the machines themselves. The danger lies in us. It lies in humans relinquishing our responsibility to define the moral purpose of our tools. Machines are masters of know how. They deliver flawless execution, rapid sensory feedback, and tactical optimization. But they completely lack know what. Know what is the exclusive domain of humanity. It is our moral purpose, our ethical constraints, our ability to define the ultimate goal. How do we find true human value, meaning, and agency in the age of AI? We find it by refusing to become mere gears in our own creations. If we blindly delegate our decisions to algorithms, we reduce ourselves to the level of the machines we built, our human use, our highest purpose. is to remain the ethical architects of our future. We must guide the immense power of our technology with the warmth, the tragedy, and the unyielding compassion of the human soul. Thank you for your time, and see you next time.